History is not only a story of what we remember, it's also a vast collection of what we've forgotten. Beneath our feet, behind myths, and lost between ancient pages, there are entire civilizations that once thrived. Civilizations that built, traded, discovered, and reigned. And yet today, their names are barely whispered. Some left behind towering ruins, others only rumors. But what unites them all is the haunting question: how could something so great simply disappear? Today on Shadows of History, we'll explore 5 remarkable civilizations that vanished, and whose disappearances still puzzle historians to this day. Let's begin. 1. The Indus Valley Civilization. Our first civilization takes us to South Asia, to the lands we now call Pakistan and northwest India. Around 3300 BCE, long before the rise of Rome or even Egypt's pyramids, the Indus Valley Civilization emerged. What they built was astonishing. They created massive cities, including Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, with sophisticated urban planning that put some modern cities to shame. Their streets were laid out in grids. Their homes had private bathrooms. They engineered advanced drainage systems, used standardized bricks, and managed water in a way that seems far ahead of their time. They were peaceful, or at least left no obvious signs of warfare. We haven't found monuments to kings or vast armies. Instead, they seem to have been an egalitarian, trade-driven people. They developed their own writing system, a script made of symbols found on seals and pottery. But here's the mystery: we've never been able to decode it. Their entire language, culture, and beliefs remain largely inaccessible to us. Around 1900 BCE, the civilization began to decline. Cities were abandoned, populations scattered, and the reasons remain unclear. Some scholars blame climate change, perhaps the drying up of the Sarasvati River or a shift in monsoons. Others suggest disease, earthquake, or trade disruption. Regardless of the cause, a great civilization, one that may have rivaled Mesopotamia and Egypt, vanished, leaving behind ruins and questions. 2. The Hittite Empire. When we talk about ancient empires, we often mention the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians. But the Hittites, they're often left out, even though they once ruled one of the most powerful empires of the late Bronze Age. Centering in what is now modern-day Turkey, the Hittites emerged around 1600 BCE and quickly rose to dominate the region. They mastered chariot warfare, crafted iron weapons long before many of their rivals, and established an elaborate system of law and governance. They went toe-to-toe with Ramses II of Egypt at the legendary Battle of Kadesh, one of the earliest battles in recorded history, with detailed accounts on both sides. They wrote in cuneiform. Their capital, Hattusa, was a walled city filled with temples, archives, and royal buildings. Thousands of clay tablets were found there, providing insights into treaties, religious practices, and even international diplomacy. And then, around 1178 BCE, the Hittite Empire collapsed. Not just declined, collapsed. Gone. What happened? Historians believe the Hittites were victims of the Bronze Age collapse, a mysterious regional catastrophe that brought down several powerful civilizations within a few decades. Some say it was caused by invasions from the so-called Sea Peoples. Others blame prolonged drought, famine, internal rebellion, or economic collapse. The result was total devastation. The cities burned, the language faded, and the once mighty Hittites slipped into obscurity until archaeologists uncovered their ruins in the early 20th century. 3. The Nabateans. Our third forgotten civilization didn't just disappear. It melted into the empires around it, almost silently. The Nabateans were a desert people who built the incredible city of Petra in what is now Jordan. You've probably seen Petra. It's the city carved directly into red sandstone cliffs, famous for its grand facades and hidden passageways. But the Nabateans were more than architects. They were traders, engineers, and water management experts. In the middle of the desert, they created systems of cisterns, aqueducts, and hidden water storage to sustain their people and caravans. They became enormously wealthy by controlling the spice trade routes between Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. Frankincense, myrrh, silk, it all passed through Nabatean hands. And yet, very little is known about them. They left almost no writing of their own. Most of what we know comes from Greek and Roman sources. Their religion, culture, and even their language largely vanished. By the time Rome annexed their territory in 106 CE, the Nabateans were already fading. Within a few generations, their unique identity was gone. Was it conquest, assimilation, or something more subtle? Their legacy lies in the stone city they left behind. Beautiful, silent, and mysterious. The Minoans. When you think of ancient Greece, you probably imagine Athens, Sparta, or Alexander the Great. But long before them, before Homer, before the Acropolis, there were the Minoans. The Minoans lived on the island of Crete and flourished from around 3000 to 1100 BCE. They were Europe's first advanced civilization, with massive palaces, beautiful art, and complex social structures. The most famous Minoan site is Knossos, a sprawling palace complex with hundreds of rooms, colorful frescoes, and elaborate plumbing systems. The myth of the labyrinth and the Minotaur likely originates from this very site. The Minoans were skilled sailors and traders. They exchanged goods across the Mediterranean, from Egypt to Mesopotamia. Their influence was wide, but their language remains a mystery. Their writing system, known as Linear A, still hasn't been deciphered. Their society appears to have been relatively peaceful, with no obvious signs of fortifications or constant warfare. But then, around 1450 BCE, something happened. The leading theory is the Thera eruption, a massive volcanic explosion on the nearby island of Santorini. It may have caused tsunamis, ash clouds, and climate disruption that devastated the Minoan economy and society. Shortly after, the Mycenaeans, a warlike culture from mainland Greece, took over the island, and just like that, the Minoans disappeared. Were they destroyed by nature, conquered, or slowly absorbed and forgotten? Their art and ruins remain, but their voices are lost. 5. The Mississippians. Our final story doesn't come from across the ocean. It comes from right here in North America. Long before European settlers arrived, before the United States was a concept, there was a thriving culture known as the Mississippians. Between 800 and 1600 CE, they built one of the most impressive cities in pre-Columbian America, Cahokia, located near modern-day St. Louis. Cahokia had over 20,000 residents at its peak, larger than London at the time. It featured massive earthen mounds, ceremonial plazas, sophisticated farming, and a complex social hierarchy. And yet most Americans have never heard of them. The Mississippians didn't use written language. So much of their history has been reconstructed through archaeology and oral tradition. Sometime between 1300 and 1600, Cahokia was abandoned. The mounds remained, but the people moved on. Why? Possibly due to resource exhaustion, deforestation, flooding, internal conflict, or the introduction of diseases through early contact with other peoples. The Mississippians' legacy was overlooked, dismissed by early scholars who assumed that Native American societies couldn't have built such structures. Only recently have we begun to give this ancient American civilization the respect it deserves. They didn't disappear without a trace, but they were certainly erased from many history books. These 5 civilizations, the Indus Valley, the Hittites, the Nabateans, the Minoans, and the Mississippians, each left behind more questions than answers. They were advanced, They were innovative. They shaped their worlds and ours. And yet they vanished, whether swallowed by nature, war, assimilation, or simply time itself. Their stories remind us that nothing is permanent. Even greatness can be forgotten. But here in the shadows of history, we shine a light on what's been left behind. So subscribe to the channel and join us as we continue to explore the stories lost in the dust, the civilizations that once were and might still be speaking if we only know how to listen. Until next time, remember, history isn't just what we remember, it's what we rediscover.